in Mexico or putting American troops or American personnel into Mexico to deal with the
Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. Mexico is, look, I looked at Mexico City over the weekend. There's some big problems over there. If we had to, would we do there what we've done to the waterways? You know, there's almost no drugs coming in through our waterways anymore. Isn't it down like 85%?
It is, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know who the 15% would be.
Yep.
It wouldn't be you.
No, that's for sure.
No, I think it's been,
Tons and tons of
you would say
drugs.
that's a big signal.
Absolutely.
We have almost no drugs coming into our country by the sea, by, you know, the waterways. And you know why, okay? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Would I do that on the land corridors? I would absolutely. Look, every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. Not to mention the destruction of families. These families are decimated forever. The mother, the father, the children. They never recover really from it. You know, when you lose somebody, like the way they live. If you lose them, but the way they die is horrible.
Is it something?
So when we knock out a boat and we save 25,000 lives, that's great. Now, do I feel the same way about the corridors that they use? We know every one of them. We have every one of those corridors under major surveillance. We have nobody coming in through our southern border. But we know exactly how they get their things here, how they get the drugs here. Fentanyl, cocaine. Colombia has cocaine factories where they make cocaine. Would I knock out those factories? I would be proud to do it personally. I didn't say I'm doing it, but I would be proud to do it because we're going to save millions of lives by doing it.
Would you only do it with Mexico's permission, though?
I wouldn't answer that question. I've been speaking to Mexico. They know how I stand. We're losing hundreds of thousands of people to drugs. So now we've stopped the waterways, but we know every route. We know every route. We know the addresses of every drug lord. We know their address. We know their front door. We know everything about every one of them. They're killing our people. That's like a war. Would I do it? I'd be proud to. I'd probably go into Congress and say, hey, and you know what? The Democrats and the Republicans would both agree, unless they're crazy. And they are a little crazy on the Democrat side. But we have lost hundreds of thousands of people a year, death. And that's not talking about family destruction, that's talking about death. And much of it comes through Mexico. So let me just put it this way. I am not happy with Mexico, okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press.
Any new projects?
Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Press. Thank you, guys.
Stefano is getting reaction for us from the Venezuelan capital, Caracas. So he's not committing to allowing Maduro to stay in power. But he said he was willing to speak to Maduro. It was interesting just to know that they haven't spoken yet, I guess.
Yes, it's interesting that for sure, Max, and it's also interesting that you can see we've talked a lot about how Donald Trump, especially in the second mandate, has in a way really changed the rules of diplomacy and in the American stance on the international stage. Well, this position towards Venezuela, which keeps changing and changing, of course, is leaving many people by surprise here in Caracas, especially in the streets of Caracas. When you speak with most Venezuelans, they actually ask you, as a journalist, what do you think is going to happen, rather than they sharing their hopes or their expectations. Many people simply say, you should know more than this. Are the Americans going to strike or not? Are people going to take out Maduro or not? What do you think is going to happen? And I often lack insight myself because it's really hard to predict. What you said is absolutely spot on, Max. It's telling that despite yesterday's openings to a discussion between Caracas and Washington, there have not yet been any contact. A few hours with a source close to the government of Venezuela, and they also told me that there is no formal channel of communication. That doesn't mean that somebody within the government is speaking with somebody close to Trump, maybe on Signal, one of these encrypted communication channels that we know are still active. However, of course, that is one thing. The other one is a fully engaged conversation and discussion around the possible negotiation between Washington and Caracas. Today definitely feels like a completely different day from, for example, yesterday or even Saturday. Saturday was really the day in the last few days and weeks where we saw the government most prepared here in Caracas to come up to a confrontation with the United States. They had, for example, organized ceremonies for local civilians to swear in and take an oath to defend Venezuela in case of an attack. Well, today, as you can see from where I am, it feels a completely different day. It feels very much a normal Monday afternoon. It's about 4:30 p.m. here in Venezuela right now, and people are just getting on with their days while we try to run our sources, trying to run our contacts, and try to get a reaction from Maduro himself. He hasn't spoken yet. The local interior minister here, Diosdado Cabello, did give a presser, but he did not address those remarks by Trump late on Sunday night. So Max, I want you to stay with us, and as soon as we hear from Maduro, we will definitely let you know. In the meantime, we are trying to speak with as many Venezuelans as possible who share our own sense of surprise, confusion, and trying to decipher the different messages coming down from Washington. What could be the course of action? Because you have a president who says that he's open to discussion, but at the same time, the Secretary of State is saying that he wants to declare the Venezuelan government a foreign terrorist organization. And now today, it is the president saying, President Trump saying that he will not allow Maduro to stay in power, which, well, for Maduro will probably be a non-starter in order to enter negotiations. So a lot still to come, I think, around Venezuela, and a lot still for us to understand, make sense of before sharing it with you and the audience. Max?
Okay, back with you when you have more. Stefano, thank you so much.
This afternoon, President Trump was asked again about Venezuela's strongman leader, Nicolas Maduro, and if there was anything Maduro could do to keep his support as the U.S. military continues to strike alleged drug boats.
He's done tremendous damage to our country, primarily because of drugs, but really because we have that problem with other countries too. But more than any other country, the release of prisoners into our country has been a disaster. He's emptied his jails. Others have done that also. He has not been good to the United States. So we'll see what happens. At a certain period of time, I'll be talking to him.
U.S. officials say Trump still has not yet made a decision as to whether to order land strikes against Venezuela. But President Trump did say a new State Department terrorist designation of a Venezuelan drug cartel would give him the authority for such a strike. Joining us now to discuss, Republican Congressman from Florida, Carlos Gimenez. Congressman, good to see you. So you praised the Trump administration's recent terrorist designation of the Venezuelan cartel de los Soles. Do you believe it's in the U.S.'s best interest to actually strike in Venezuela, risking an all-out war with that country?
I think it's in the United States' best interest that Nicolas Maduro leaves Venezuela. He is the illegitimate leader of the country. There is a government, a legitimate government that won an election fair and square last year. He's unwilling to give up power. He has been part of international cartels that have killed over 500,000 Americans. And so I applaud President Trump in his efforts to protect the American citizens and the American homeland.
So President Trump said this afternoon that his beef with Maduro was primarily because of drugs. We should note Venezuela is not the primary producer of cocaine in the region, nor does Venezuela mass produce fentanyl and opioids that are killing so many tens of thousands of Americans. So why Venezuela if the reasoning behind this, the casus belli, is drugs?
No, the reason is because, because he's illegitimate ruler of Venezuela, but also a lot of the drug trafficking actually goes through Venezuela from Colombia. And so there's a close relationship between the Venezuelan shippers and the Colombian producers, and that's how this stuff gets into the United States. And so I'm not saying that he is the only person involved in this. Look, there are cartels in Mexico, cartels in Colombia, cartels in Venezuela that are all part of this network that ships their poison to the United States. And like I've said, They've killed between 500,000 and 1 million Americans, and over the last 5 years, and the United States government has done nothing about it. The number one duty of the American government is to protect its citizens, and in this case, we've been woefully inadequate.
Trump also said, speaking of Mexico, that he would be okay launching strikes in Mexico to stop the flow of drugs. What was your response to that?
My response to that is we need to pick up the phone and call Sheinbaum, President Sheinbaum. She's got protests in her own country now. Her people have finally woken up to the fact that she may be involved in this too. Look, the cartels that control the northern part of Mexico not only have been shipping this poison and facilitated the shipment of this poison into the United States, but also help with the mass migration of millions of people into the United States. Her government is no friend of the United States, and yes, her hands are dirty too when it comes to the killing of American citizens. And so I would call her and say, hey, you got 2 weeks, man, to clean up your act in the northern border, or else, I've got to protect my citizens. And again, President Trump has to protect the American citizens because that's his number one duty.
Have you seen any concrete evidence of narcotics on any of those 21 boats that have been targeted by the U.S. military so far? And if so, can you tell us what the evidence is?
I can't tell you if I knew, because it's all in a classified setting, but I can tell you that there's a high degree of confidence that those boats are filled with narcotics and that they are, manned by people that are members of these terrorist organizations. Look, let's give you an example. Suppose that was an ISIS boat filled with explosives heading into the United States. Will anybody have any problem with us blowing it up? Well, the fact is that those drugs that those boats are carrying have the killing capacity far greater than a boat filled with explosives. And so everybody's hung up about, it's drugs, it's not explosives. Hey, the drugs have killed a lot more far more Americans than any explosives have. And so, yeah, again, I applaud President Trump in the action that he's taken.
But just to be clear, aren't the drugs that are killing so many Americans fentanyl and opioids, not so much cocaine?
Yeah, but they're the carriers, okay? No, actually it's the carrier drug. So the fentanyl is actually mixed in with the cocaine and other drugs, and that's what's killing Americans. You look, like one grain of fentanyl can kill you. You get 10 pounds of fentanyl, it'll kill you. I don't know how many millions of people. And so, yeah, look, it's not just one individual, one cartel. This is a whole network. And by the way, it goes back to China too, because China produces 97% of the precursor chemicals that are used to produce fentanyl. And guess what? You can't sell those chemicals in China, but they incentivize it for export. So yeah. China, their hands are dirty in this too. So it's not just one party involved in this. There's a whole bunch of people involved in it, and we've got to look at every single aspect of it and stop it, because it's been killing Americans and continues to kill Americans every single day.
Republican Congressman Carlos Menes of Florida, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure.